wonderful seeing you.
Welcome
Sarah, your
to
whole
the
group.
channel. The
Very talented
president
group.
is live with
We've done very
Netanyahu,
good
so
work
we're going to go to
together,
that.
and it'll continue. So thank you very much, people.
Thank you.
This is at Mar-a-Lago.
I have to say that in addition to what I said, that we've never had a friend, even close, a friend, as President Trump in the White House. I think he's been extraordinary in his friendship and his support for Israel,
No doubt.
his principled positions, his willingness to just cut through and get to the essence of things. And I don't say that as a compliment. I just mean it. People have heard me say that behind your back, Mr. President, many times. But I want to say something else. I think we have a partnership, if I can quote you, second to none. I think it's allowed us to do enormous things. You know, people said there was a different conception at one time, which means that America can advance its interest in the Middle East if it opens a lot of daylight between it and Israel. And President Trump has done the exact opposite. He's achieved remarkable things in the Middle East because we work together. We talk about our ideas. Sometimes we have different ideas, but we work it out. And most of the time we see eye to eye. But it's been a remarkable experience, and this was a very, very productive meeting. And may I say, a very good lunch. Thank you. Thank you for your friendship.
Thank you very much, people.
And thank you for your support. It's meant from the heart.
Thank you. You know, as I said outside, he's been a wartime prime minister, and we were, well, I guess I could say I was a wartime president in more places than just Israel, if you think about it. But Israel was a big factor, and we're with you, and we'll continue to be with you. And a lot of good things are happening in the Middle East. We have peace in the Middle East, and we're going to try and keep it that way. I think we will be very successful in keeping it that way. And you've been a great friend, and I've been a great friend to you and to Israel, and it's been my honor. And the award that I was given was really surprising and very much appreciated.
Well, President Trump has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli. And we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who's responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's such a fitting thing, and it would honor us, obviously, Mr. President, if you could visit Israel
Yes.
in that occasion on our Independence Day. But I have to say that this reflects the overwhelming sentiment of Israelis across the spectrum. They appreciate what you've done to help Israel and to help our common battle against the terrorists and those who would destroy our civilization. So, again, that's an expression of thanks and appreciation.
Thank you, baby, very much. That really is a great honor. Any questions, please? We'll
Here we go.
pretty quickly because pretty much we agree on most of the things, and you would know what most of those things are. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to know if you and the Prime Minister talked about having Israel pull back its troops before Hamas fully disarms. I know that's been an issue. Did you push for that today?
Well, we talked about Hamas, and we talked about disarmament. And they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm. And we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side. But if they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
Israel withdrawing its forces?
Well, that's a separate subject. We'll talk about that.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, did you have a message for the Prime Minister about the West Bank? And are you at all concerned that Israeli settler violence could be undermining the peace plan?
Well, we have had a discussion, big discussion, for a long time on the West Bank, and I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we will come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
If I could ask, what is the disagreement?
Well, I don't want to do that. It'll be announced at an appropriate time. But he will do the right thing. I know that. I know him very well. He will do the right thing. Yes.
There is a growing fear of a confrontation between Israel and Turkey. How are you going to ease this tension given the fact that President Erdogan calls Mr. Netanyahu Hitler and compares Israel to the Nazis?
Well, I know President Erdogan very well. And as you all know, he's a very good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, and I do respect him, and Bibi respects him. And they're not going to have a problem. They're not going to have a problem. I know him very well. And you've seen me do things with President Erdogan and Turkey that nobody else could have done. We're not going to have a problem. He's done a fantastic job. I'm with him all the way. I'm with Bibi all the way. Nothing's going to happen. Yes.
Are you concerned that Israel is not moving quickly enough to phase 2 of the peace plan?
Well, I'm not concerned about any concern. They've lived up to the plan. They're strong. They're solid. And sometimes they don't understand when somebody violates something that you want to give them a second chance. Well, we'll give them a couple of second chances. But no, Israel's lived up to the plan 100%. Don't forget, we made the plan possible by taking out Iran. And speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading, that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it, because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel. Okay?
President Trump, because your last remarks regarding the pardon request of Prime Minister Netanyahu, Herzog office told us that you have not talked after the official request of Prime Minister Netanyahu pardon. Can you clarify to us? Did you talk
Which
about
request
it
are you talking about?
with
Pardon?
the President Herzog, the Israeli President Herzog? Did you talk with him directly?
President Erdogan?
Herzog, the Israeli
So
President
you're talking
Herzog.
about pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got to say that. No, I think he's going to be in great shape. He's a wartime prime minister at the highest level. He's achieved tremendous success. And I'll say it, if you had 8 out of 10 prime ministers in his position right now, or before right now, maybe, you wouldn't have Israel any longer. Israel would not exist. I'd say two of them would, and 8 of them wouldn't. Those are not good odds. You needed a very special man to really carry through and really help Israel through this horrible jam. These are major factions, and it started with our negotiation with Iran. I think it probably started with Soleimani. That was really where you mentioned that today, which started with Soleimani. Bad guy, doing bad things, hurting a lot of people, killing American soldiers and other soldiers. But it started right there, would probably be the starting point. And then from that point forward, but you have a wartime prime minister at the highest level. There could be other wartime prime ministers, but they'd lose. He won. And I think the people of Israel appreciate it. I think a lot of the people in the world appreciate it, actually. And because of that victory, we were able to get peace in the Middle East. If you had a different kind of a personality, if you had a weak person or a stupid person, and there are plenty of both of them, you would not have had success, and you might not have Israel. And you report for Israel. I know you're very proud of it, and you do a great job. You might not have a job because there might not be an Israel right now if you had a different prime minister. That's a big statement, but to me it's a very simple statement to make. I'm looking at Pete Hegseth, and he's sort of nodding. If they don't have a strong prime minister, Pete, you might not have Israel today. I think he'll go down in the record books. And, I was a big help. I'll be honest with you, big help. Somebody said in the room, if you don't have Trump, you needed a proper combination of everything. And if you didn't have that combination, which they had, you would not have an existing Israel right now. And the people of Israel know it. That's why they like me, and it's why they actually like him. He's got a little bit of a love-hate more than I do over there. But you know what? Even the haters have a lot of respect for him. There's a lot of jealousy about him. A lot of jealousy. Jealousy is a bad word. But I believe you would not have Israel right now. So it's a big deal. Yeah, please.
President, a recent poll showed that as many as half of Gazans would be willing to leave the Gaza Strip if afforded the opportunity to do so. Back in February, you said that all Gazans should be.
I heard that number today. Half of Gaza would leave. I've always said it. I said if they were given the opportunity to live in a better climate, they would move. They're there because they sort of have to be. I think it would be a great opportunity. But let's see if that opportunity presents itself. But we're helping the people of Gaza a lot. So is Israel, by the way. So we'll see what happens. But I saw that it was a poll. It was actually more than half the people would leave if they were given the opportunity. And I've been saying that for a long time. To me, it was common sense. So it's interesting.
Why wouldn't countries accept that?
Look, let's not talk about it because we don't want the controversy. Right now, we're helping Gaza. But if they were given the opportunity, I think even higher than that, the group that did the poll is usually, I call them negative pollsters. You have a lot of them. And yet this poll was, I think, very accurate, other than it would be more than half the people if given the opportunity. But they haven't been given that opportunity. So we'll see what happens.
Mr. President, have you reached a point of understanding regarding Syria?
We do have an understanding regarding Syria. Now, with Syria, you know, your new president, I respect him. He's a very strong guy, and that's what you need in Syria. You can't put a choir boy. You can't put somebody that's a perfect person. Everything's nice, no problems in life. You have the opposite there. He's a strong guy. We get along with him great. I can't ask for any more. He's been with us all the way. We had that mishap with ISIS, and he was with us all the way. He was fighting us. You know, he was fighting them.
We'll take calls after the press conference. If
I
you want
hope
to call
Israel.
in.
I'm sure that Israel and him will get along. I will try and make it so that they do get along. I think they will. Bibi, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, our interest is to have a peaceful border with Syria. Our interest is to have, and we openly say it, we want to make sure that the border area right next to our border is safe. We don't have terrorists, we don't have attacks, and we also want to secure our Druze friends. And by the way, I think not only the Druze, but other minorities, especially the Christians, should be protected as well in Syria and throughout the Middle East and in Nigeria. In your efforts, we back completely, because Christian communities are beleaguered around the world, and especially in the Middle East, but in parts of Africa too. And we stand for the same thing.
And don't forget, it was President Erdogan that helped very much get rid of a very bad ruler of Syria. That was President Erdogan. And he never wanted the credit for it, but he really gets a lot of credit. Bibi agrees with that. I agree with I mean, I know it. And President Erdogan should get a lot of good credit for what he did. He got rid of some very bad people. And, you know, they've been wanting to do that for 1,000 years with different names, but for 1,000 years in Syria. President Erdogan did it, and we give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit. But I think it's going to work out well between Syria and Israel.
Mr. President, about Lebanon.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The Lebanese government, what we saw, is not meeting the terms of the ceasefire agreement, has failed to disarm Hezbollah, actually. In your view, should Israel strike the terrorist organization again?
Well, we're going to see about that. We'll see about it. The Lebanese government is at a little bit of a disadvantage, if you think of it, with Hezbollah. But Hezbollah has been behaving badly, so we'll see what happens.
How close are we to another operation of Israel in Iran? You said before the meeting with Netanyahu that you are in support of Israel if the ballistic missile project will take on, and also the nuclear weapon. But after the meeting, after what you know from the intelligence, how close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but
Weird
Iran
questions.
may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences. Consequences will be very powerful. Maybe more powerful than the last time. Yeah.
Mm.
And Iran should have made a deal the last time. I gave them the option.
It's the second.
I said, you
second
can make a
warning
deal. Do it.
to Israel.
I told them, do it.
I mean, to second
And
warning to
they
Iran.
didn't believe me. Now they believe me.
Behaving badly, and what do you mean by that?
This is just what we hear. But usually, where there's smoke, there's fire. Have you heard the expression?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean related to the nuclear
Well,
capabilities?
no, I'm hearing that they're not nuclear yet, but maybe nuclear too. The sites were obliterated, but they're looking at other sites. That's what I've heard. They're
Do you have
looking.
intelligence
So it'll
about
take
it?
a long time. They're not going to go back to where they were, but they have other places they can go. And if they're doing that, they're making a big mistake. Yeah, please. There's no reason for them to do it.
Mr. President, is the United States currently open to engaging in bilateral discussions with Tehran? We're hearing reports from numerous countries that there may be some discussions. Is that something you would support, or
Yeah,
something that is
I would.
happening? You
Sure.
would support that?
I would,
happening
yes.
Right now. Thank you, sir.
I have been, by the way, before the war, I would support that. I said to him, baby, I said, let's negotiate. And they didn't believe what was going to happen would happen. Yes, ma'am.
On China, so China's been doing naval exercises basically to test encircling Taiwan. Can you explain to us what your knowledge is of that? What do you think about that? Have you had any discussions with China
Well, I have a
about
great
that?
relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it, but he hasn't told me anything about it, and I don't believe he's going to be doing it. No, nothing worries me. Nothing.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So
Yeah.
if you're if you're doing naval exercises and air
Well,
exercises,
they've been doing naval exercises for 20 years in that area. Now people take it a little bit differently, but in fact larger than they're doing right now. So we'll see. But they've been doing that for 20, 25 years. Yeah.
Mr. President, if you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time that you're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps would
It'll be horrible for them. Horrible. It's going to be really, really bad for them. And I don't want that to happen. But they made an agreement that they were going to disarm. And you couldn't blame Israel. By the way, we have other countries that will come in and do it. They said, let us do it for you if they don't. Countries that were with them wanted the deal to be made, agreed that they would disarm. And now if they say they're going to disarm, that's fine. If they say they're not going to disarm, those same countries will go and wipe them out. They don't even need Israel. You know, we have many countries, 59 countries that are in agreement. This is a real peace in the Middle East. And Hamas is a small part of it, but it's still a part of it. But we have 59 countries that signed on, big countries, countries that are outside of the Middle East, as you know the Middle East. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas. They don't want Israel. They don't need Israel. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do, because they were for the deal based on the fact that Hamas pledged, they swore that they were going to disarm. Now, if they're not going to disarm, those same countries will wipe out Hamas.
Wow.
Do you think that the PA should be involved in the day after in Gaza Strip, even in the near future? And the same question to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you see a real opportunity that the PA will be in Gaza?
Go ahead, Mimi.
I think President Trump put clearly the conditions of reform that he wants to see in the PA for them to be involved. And I think he put it very clearly what he wants to see, the kind of real reforms, not just perfunctory reforms, but real reforms. Stop pay to slay, change the curriculum in your textbooks, open up a different society and a different future. If they do it, well, let them, I think it was clear. He put
Pretty clear.
He put guidelines that were, by the way, in the Trump plan of 2020. And they were put then in the 20 points. And it's up to them.
Remember this, if we didn't do what we did to Iran, just to make the subject just slightly different, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal signed in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal. Because other Arab nations, which are great, great people. I know them very well. I know them all. They're great people. They wouldn't be able to have agreed to peace in the Middle East because you would have had a dark cloud hanging over everything. It wouldn't have been possible. So Iran has been greatly reduced in power, prestige. I don't want to use the word humiliation because, they're trying to build up again. But we can't let them build up because if they build up, there can't be peace in the Middle East. It was a mistake. When they wiped out Iraq and Iran were about the same power. And they fought each other with different names for 1,000 years. And then our country came out and blew up one of those two countries, namely Iraq. And all of a sudden, Iran had the whole Middle East all to itself. But that's not true anymore. That's not true anymore.
Say
it.
Tell us something about your plan to expand the Abraham Accords. If you can tell us something about your plan to expand the Abraham Accords.
Well, the Abraham Accords are a great achievement of Jared and everybody. I mean, it was one of the great achievements. They'll be expanded. Countries are already talking about expanding it, and they'll be expanded fairly quickly. Yeah, please.
Is it still on the table? The normalization?
Saudi Arabia is great. We have a great leader, and a friend of mine and a friend of a lot of people. Also an enemy of some people, but those people aren't doing so well. No, Saudi Arabia has been very good as far as I'm concerned. They've done everything that we can ask for.
Israel is on the
They're getting along great with Israel. They will. And at some point, they'll sign the Abraham Accords.
Mr. President, so one of the big domestic tasks ahead of you is to pick a new chairman for the Fed.
Yeah.
You've said that you have one favorite, but you're
I
also
do.
doing interviews.
Still
so
do. Hasn't changed. Yeah, I'll announce them at the right time. There's plenty of time.
Are you? Is
But
there
in the
any
meantime,
chance?
we're doing numbers that nobody's ever seen. We have $18 trillion coming in. We had a 4.3% GDP. They thought it was going to be 2%. And that's despite the Democrat shutdown. Had the shutdown not occurred, we would have had an extra 1.25.
Wow.
Think of that. We are doing, and also despite the fact that we have
The Dems are hurting the economy.
a fool at the Federal Reserve. I mean, Biden reappointed him. It's too bad. You would have thought he wouldn't have done that. But he's an absolute fool who's building a new Federal Reserve, or he's doing a renovation of a building. Maybe he's up to $4.1 billion to do a renovation of a few very small buildings. It's the highest price in the history of construction. He's spending more money than any building has ever spent per square foot on the renovation of, as an example, I'm doing a magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number. And we're under budget and ahead of schedule. Now, it's bigger than I told you. After realizing we're going to do the inauguration in that building.
Wow.
It's got all bulletproof glass. It's got
Wow. I never heard that before.
They call it drone-free roof.
Wow.
So drones
Future
won't touch it.
inaugurations are going to be in there.
It's a big, beautiful, safe building, but it's it's a
That's
big
awesome.
project. For a tiny fraction of that, we're under budget and ahead
Wow.
of schedule, and they've wanted it for 150 years. Think of it: the Federal Reserve Building, 2 buildings there. They don't know what they're doing. They're way over budget. I mean, almost. This was built during the Biden administration, and I rode by it the other day, and it's headed by the head of the Federal Reserve. Too late, too late, Powell. Too late because he's always too late with interest rates, except before the election he was too early because that would have helped. That was supposed to help get her elected. It had no impact. We won all 7 swing states. But no. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence.
Oh.
Because think of it, these aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. He's at $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion. $4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. There's never been. Gorgeous monuments are built for a much smaller price. So we're thinking about bringing a gross incompetence, what's called gross incompetence lawsuit. It's gross incompetence against Powell.
Dropping a lot of news here.
And it was his baby. And the guy's just incompetent. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. He's just a very incompetent man. But we're going to probably bring a lawsuit against him. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Bibi, congratulations. January sometime.
And will you ask Jay Powell to resign?
Well, he should resign.
Entirely?
You know, be a favor to the nation. But he's come close. I mean, we're getting pretty close.
Will
I would fire him. I'd love to fire him, but we're so close. You know, maybe it. But maybe I still might.
Will you sell F-35 to the Turkey?
Say it.
Are you going to approve a selling of F-35 to the Turkish?
We're thinking about it very seriously.
And what is
What
your,
prevented-
reaction to this?
They'll never use it on it.
Thank you, President.
All right. Well, that was pretty good. All right. Now, listen, I'm going to start the podcast. All right. And I'm going to cover Tim Walz and everything connected to that. So just let me get a brief pause because I'm going to upload this to all the podcast platforms. And if you're on hold, stand by. We got a lot to cover. And if you'd like to call in, the number's toll free, and it's pinned in the live chat. All right, so just give me a second here, and then we'll transist to the podcast. That was pretty good press conference there. President dropped some big things, and I'm going to cover some big things that the president has going on and much more. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe to the program, all right? Hold on a second, guys, and we'll get started. This is the first day that I don't feel sick, so that's a good thing. You really appreciate feeling well when you've been sick. You really have. You know what? Let me take a quick break, and then we'll come back from the break and start the podcast. All right, stand by.
Are you struggling with unanswered prayers, facing doubt in your faith journey, wondering if God is really listening? There's a transformative truth waiting for you. The groundbreaking new book reveals how God's answers to your prayers, according to His will, is always yes. Not sometimes, not maybe, always. God said yes. He never rejects, only directs and redirects. From author Gaten Glover Sr. This isn't just theology, this is life-changing. Discover how this perspective can transform your job search with confidence that God's affirmative answer is already unfolding. Strengthen your faith during health crises and personal challenges. Guide your parenting through disappointments with renewed wisdom. Navigate ethical decisions at work with spiritual clarity. Revitalize your Monday mornings and reconnect with your purpose. Whether you're a new believer grappling with faith, a longtime Christian facing spiritual burnout, someone in a season of doubt, a parent, professional, or seeker, you need this fresh lens on God's will. Through biblical narratives, personal stories, and theological insights, explore how God communicates with you, always aiming towards your ultimate good and growth. Find peace, discover purpose, experience God's yes. Available now. God said yes. He never rejects, only directs and redirects. From author Gaten Glover Sr. There's also a study guide that comes with the book that you can download. A transformative guide for your spiritual journey.
Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome. If you're new, make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And remember, the Brian Craig Show podcast is available wherever you get podcasts. If you want to catch the video podcast in live form, go to YouTube, search for the Brian Craig Show on all podcast platforms. But if you go to YouTube and search Brian Craig Show, you can catch the podcast in video form live when I'm taking calls. All right, so let's get into it. Tim Walz in Minnesota is in big trouble. Nick Shirley, who has broken the biggest financial scandal story in the history of the United States, has really opened up a can of worms, okay? Ilhan Omar's husband has the proverbial shredder out as he's purging his venture capitalist firm of information from its website. Tim Walz is playing the race card. We're going to cover all this and a whole bunch more has happened today. And, you know, this Minnesota financial scandal, not only is it the largest financial scandal in the history of the United States, bigger than all these Ponzi's and everything else. Nothing's even come close. This very well could be the big defining issue in the midterm elections. So we got a lot to cover. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. But here's Tim Walz.
We're a state of immigrants that values that. We have more refugees per capita than any other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school, and you see every store.
Well, how the hell do you do that? How do you have a school where 50 languages are spoken? How do you educate the students if 50 languages are spoken in a school? I don't get that. The School of Babel.
And cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school, and you see every storefront filled with different types of foods, different types of businesses that are happening. Minnesota needs to continue to do that. The office of governor can set the tone on that. We're going to continue to need to diversify. We're going to have to put policies in place that make sure we're attracting teachers of color so that students of color have someone that they understand, look like, think like, see like in front of them, as well as other students. We are doing it in Minnesota.
You know, I don't get that. You need black students have to be taught by black teachers? You know, when I was in elementary school in the 1970s is when busing was going on, okay? And I was right down the street from where I was going to school, and they bused us across town into as the liberals would say, a majority-minority school. So it was they bused all us white kids from where I lived, and they bused us all the way across town. This was in Columbus, Ohio, to a black neighborhood and a black school. And that was my third grade year. I had a black teacher in third grade. When I started kindergarten, I had a black teacher in kindergarten. I had a black teacher in first grade. I had a white teacher in second grade and had a black teacher in third grade. Then fourth grade was a white teacher, and then I had a black teacher in fifth grade when that was my first year going to school in Florida. And then, you know, I could go on. You know, it gets a little difficult to keep track once you get in middle school and high school because you're changing classes 6, 7 teachers a day. But this idea that black students, black children can only be educated by black teachers, what the heck is that all about? You know, I thought part of the education was, you know, about diversity. So you can, you know, learn things that are going on outside of your house or off your street. But, you know, here's the thing about Minnesota. Obviously, the Somalis are responsible and they're criminals with all of this. But they didn't set up this operation. This is an operation that was set up by the Democrat Party led by Tim Walz. And I got to tell you this. I've been very critical of Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, who's cowered out and quit, and Pam Bondi. With everything that has come out in the past 2 weeks out of Minnesota, especially with Nick Shirley's reporting on Friday, but we had a lot before that, there is not a single reason why Kash Patel has not led a team of agents into the Capitol building and brought in Tim Walz for questioning. There's no reason for it, them not doing that. None. Zero. Less than zero. They have plenty of information, and he and his agencies, they got a lot of explaining to do. I mean, you've seen these stories that came over the last couple of days where these Democrat judges tossed out guilty verdicts, not from a grand jury, not an indictment, but guilty verdicts from impaneled juries in criminal cases found them guilty, 100%, right? Because it's a jury trial, and liberal Democrat judges let them go. There's no reason not to haul this guy in for questioning right now. Do you guys agree with that? How could you disagree? We've had nothing but major news drops come out about Tim Walz and everything else. Now, I'm going to go through some things today that have happened during the day, too, because here it is, New Year's week. President Trump, he's on Christmas and New Year's vacation right here in town at Mar-a-Lago, and he's not taking much of a vacation, right? He met with Zelensky yesterday. Today was Netanyahu. And, I was talking on the morning show today that Ukraine has lost the war. There's no question Ukraine has lost the war. None. They lost it on day one, right? They're not going to beat Mother Russia. It's just not possible. But they've really made a lot of mistakes. And I don't think Zelensky cares. He's got his billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money stocked away in bank accounts, wherever. And one day he'll just flee the country and leave his country behind, and the people in Ukraine are going to have to suffer from his corruption and incompetence. He's had multiple, I'm not going to go through all the opportunities now because I detailed that this morning about the mineral deal, and President Trump had the perfect peace plan for Ukraine and Russia months ago, and Zelensky rejected it. And I was talking this morning that at the press conference yesterday with Trump and Zelensky, President Trump had pointed out that Zelensky had, I guess it was his top general, or at least one of his top generals with him. He said he looks like he's right out of central casting. Maybe President Trump needs to be talking to that general about a peace plan with Russia, because Zelensky doesn't want to have it. He doesn't want to have peace. And Zelensky went and pulled a stunt, and it was a pretty bad one. And this was the drone attack that Ukraine launched on Putin's house. And President Trump talked about it today at Mar-a-Lago when Netanyahu arrived.
The alleged strike on Putin's residence.
Hear this? The reporter's saying the alleged strike on Putin's residence. You don't go after the residence of leaders of other countries. You know, in the Second World War, we dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, but not Tokyo, because you don't want to take out the leadership. You cause chaos then, and you got no one to make the peace deal with.
The alleged strike on Putin's residence could scuttle the peace.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. That's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that.
No.
And can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it. What?
U.S. intelligence services that monitor that region very closely. Is there any evidence?
Well, it came out. Well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess. But President Putin told me this morning it did.
The reporter, whoever this idiot is, well, don't you have intelligence reports that can tell you? He's talking to the man on the phone, right? He's talking to the man on the phone. Look at all this great international work President Trump has done. Remember, both times he was president-elect, especially the first time, the Democrats and the fake news media were calling on the intelligence agencies to give President Trump false intelligence information. Do you remember that? But, this striking Putin's home, does Zelensky want this war to end? What's the point of that? What's the point of that? Right. I know, it's insane and it's stupid. And it's inciting more violence and making it impossible to end the war. And you think it's a coincidence they attacked Putin's house right after Zelensky met with President Trump? You would think if you got something like that going on, you would, cool things off if you wanted peace. So now, the other war that's going on, of course, the war on drugs, which was started by President Reagan and President Trump, this is going to be another war he's finishing. We made our first land strike on Venezuela. In fact, the president talked about it today, and a little later I'll play you a clip. He did an interview last week. I didn't even hear about this, and I was following the news over Christmas, where he talked about we hit a land target, first time, in Venezuela.
Sorry, can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in a radio interview? Did the military do that? Can you share any more details about
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around.
Is that the only strike that the U.S.
Okay, let me see if I can find I was going to play it later, but let me see if I can find the audio of the president talking about the actual. He gives a little more detail in this interview he did. Give me a second here. Let me go through and look for it. I don't know how I missed that in the news because, man, I follow the news very closely. Did you guys see that? Let's see. Okay, here it is. Okay, this is in the Daily Mail, and he gave an interview. Who did he give the interview with? It is. Let me see here.
If you're
Let me look for the name of the person that he did the interview with. And then, let's see here. Hold on. It was on WABC radio in New York, and it was on Friday. And I'm in shock that I missed this. So WABC in New York on Friday. Listen. Oh, hold on. Let me rewind it. Here we go.
There's something wrong with them. But every time I knock out a boat, we save 25,000 American lives. It's very simple. And what's happening is they're having a hard time employment-wise. They can't get anybody. And we just knocked out, I don't know if you read or you saw, they have a big plant or a big facility where they send where the ships come from. 2 nights ago, we knocked that out. So we hit them very hard. But drugs are down over 97%. Can you believe it?
Wow. Drugs down over 97% coming into the country. Who could be against that? Well, Democrats and the fake news media. That's absolutely amazing. And I missed that. How I missed it, I don't know. But I definitely missed it. And you guys probably did too. But anyway, let me get back to this. So Minnesota, this is going to be a major issue because, see, I believe a few things. One, based on the information we've gotten, I believe, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll get to calls in a bit. I believe Tim Walz was probably picked because of what they consider to be good work in Minnesota, leading this government corruption, the largest financial scandal in history, which is totaling about $9 billion. By the way, it goes beyond the child care centers. If you watch Nick Shirley's report, he went to an autism center. Remember that? And there were no children with autism being treated. This woman here, she detailed the autism scam. Listen to this.
News. Somalians in Minnesota are pretending to have autism to steal your taxpayer dollars. In 2023, displaced Somalians sent back $1.7 billion to their Somali government. 40% of households in Somalia get paychecks from Somalis in America. They're getting this cash from scamming COVID programs, SNAP, Medicaid. So for example, autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota went from 3 million in 2018 to 399 million in 2023. So 1 in 16 Somali 4-year-olds have autism. That autism treatment is then administered by Somalis, reimbursed by federal taxpayer dollars, and then that stolen money is sent back home in the form of remittances, which is just cash as a gift. So essentially, Somali populations in Michigan and Minnesota are running these fraudulent crime rings that no one's talking about. So how did this happen? Well, for the past 30 years, Somalis have been under TPS, temporary protected status in America. Now, usually you only give TPS to some after an earthquake or a tsunami because you can't immediately send them back home to their country. In this case, Somalis just don't want to be sent back home. Somalia is obviously in Africa. It's a third world country. It's a mess because they can't figure out how to govern themselves. But it's not undergoing a natural disaster, so why are they not being sent home? Lord only knows, but after 30 years, President Trump is finally doing away with that policy. He's ended TPS for Somalis. And I would just love for them to stay forever, except the problem is that this group is not assimilated. They view themselves as separate people. They're police officers, they're local leaders, they're news people. They all speak Somali. They do not respect native-born Americans, and in fact, they refer to their white police officers as foreigners. They have ubiquitous control over law enforcement in Dearborn and Minneapolis especially. Here's a video of a police officer apologizing because he exposed Somali criminal activity in Minneapolis.
Out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize and I'm sorry for that because that's not my intention.
I mean, there's nothing normal about this. It's been completely and utterly ignored by the media, and it's fraudulent criminal activity that we're just whatever. But get ready to hear a lot more about it very soon because I have a feeling the Trump administration is going in, deporting, and cracking down on the fraud that's grown rampant in these northern cities.
Yeah, well, the Somali, listen, they're out there. ICE is out there. Kristi Nomis and a team out there. I'll show some of that too coming up. But we need Kash Patel. They need to go beyond. You see, they're not going to get far with the Somalians, and I'm going to tell you why after this break. On the line, we have Bruce. Bruce is a client of Jupiter Joe Thomas. He heard me talking with Joe Thomas about annuities and what a great deal they are, and he went in with his wife, and now he's a client. Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian.
So tell me about your experience with Jupiter Joe Thomas.
A fine gentleman. We sat down with Joe, and we explained everything to him, and we brought all our information, and he worked everything out great.
The cool thing about annuities is your money's never at risk. You're guaranteed a revenue stream for the rest of your life, but there's a bonus, really a signing bonus, where you can make a boatload of money before you even leave Joe Thomas's office. Can you talk a little bit about that, Bruce?
Well, that's where I was surprised when we sat down. We talked about the bonuses, and to my amazement, it was 10%, and there was even another one that's bigger.
Wow, that's amazing. So you made 10% on your money before you even got back in your car.
Yeah, it was more than that, but it was great.
Listen, guys, do what Bruce did. Give Jupiter Joe Thomas a call. You can set up a free consultation either on the phone or in the office, and Joe Thomas will put together a custom proposal just for you. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999 and online at jupiterjoe.com. All right, Bruce, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Brian.
We're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Hank from Hollywood. How you doing?
All right, Hank, what's on your mind?
I called Tom Laporta at Tom Laporta Roofing. He sent out Scott. Now, Scott is absolutely the best. Scott and Scott's crew are the absolute best. They gave me a great price. They did the job when they said they were going to do it. They finished the job when they said they were going to do it. The materials they used, absolutely the best. I want to thank Tom. I definitely want to thank Scott, and definitely want to thank Scott's crew. These people are number one, and I just want your listeners to know, Tom Laporta at Tom Laporta Roofing. If you need a new roof, call Tom at Tom Laporta Roofing. You're not going to go wrong. You're not going to be disappointed.
Do what Hank did. Call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, 954-604-4602, and online at laportaroofing.com. I cut it off there a little too quick. Okay, welcome back. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast, available on all podcast platforms. So don't misunderstand what I'm telling you here. The Somalis need to be investigated. Need to go. They got to revoke these visas and do massive deportations of the Somalians because they are doing the day-to-day work for the largest financial scam in history. I got some more information we're going to talk about with that.
The problem, though, is a bigger problem. It's the Democrats. This entire operation is being led by Tim Walz. And as I was saying earlier, I believe Tim Walz was chosen to be Kamala Harris's running mate, not just as a reward for his good work. We call it corruption and thievery, right, for this financial scandal in Minnesota. They wanted him to take his model that is run perfectly for their criminal operation in Minnesota and bring that to all 50 states. That was their plan. Okay? You got to get, he's the one that's got to go to jail, as well as a lot of other people in the government that aren't inspecting these places like Nick Shirley did. Okay? The Somalis, they're going to have a difficult time. The Somalis are tribal people. Even within the Somali community, there's different tribes. They're not going to talk. Not only are they not going to talk, there are not, and I don't know what language they speak. Is it Somalian? There are not enough translators that speak that language to get a mass prosecution done of that all the people involved in the corruption in Minnesota and Ohio and these other states where they do not have enough Somali translators to take them through a regular justice system process and get convictions. I'm telling you, I've seen that happen before with another group of people. And that's just the way it is. It's a strange language. Not a lot of people speak it that aren't Somali. You know, they just need to revoke their status and deport them. That's it. You cannot take them through. First off, they're not going to talk. Now, they'll have a lot of evidence because there's a paper trail. I mean, they're not even hiding what they're doing. But the way we saw this week with these Democrat judges that threw out guilty verdicts. A jury came back with a guilty verdict, judge tosses it out. So, you know, the court system in that jurisdiction is run by Democrat judges. That's it. You know, so there's nothing that can be done to get all these people convicted. They just have to be deported. That's it. They just have to be deported. Now, Tim Walz and the Democrats, that's another story. We got plenty of people that speak English and we can prosecute him. But this is massive. And hundreds of people have to be involved because, you know, these facilities where they're supposed to be taking care of children, these transportation facilities, the autism centers, you know, where the healthcare agencies that aren't giving any healthcare that Nick Shirley exposed, there's regulatory and oversight at the state level where they are supposed to go to these businesses for inspections and check up on them. So that those level of people are signing off on all of this corruption. Really what needs to happen is Kash Patel needs to take a team, arrest Tim Walz, and bring him in for custody. Hey, let him lawyer up. Let him remain silent, but they need to do it. And then do mass arrest throughout the state of all the people that are supposed to be and start questioning them. That's what they got to do. Here's another woman in Minnesota talking about part of their scam where they're buying real estate, the Somalis in Minnesota. Listen.
Here in Minnesota, a local realtor reached out to me to tell me about another way that Somalians are scamming Minnesotans out of their taxpayer dollars. In her community alone, Somalians have bought up over 455 homes. They buy these homes, claiming they're turning these homes into home health care centers. She says the way we know Somalians have bought these homes is because all of a sudden, extremely nice cars start showing up. Mercedes, BMWs, the nicest cars are parked in the driveway. And she said, by law, the state will not come out and inspect these homes and make sure these homes even have clients living in these homes. She also said, as a realtor, she cannot disclose to people wanting to buy homes in this neighborhood that Somalians have bought that home and they're using that as a home health care center. She said these homes can even take people in who've just been released from jail, and the neighborhood does not need to know about this. But she says many of these homes do not even have clients in them. But the state is writing them checks every month for the clients that the Somalians say are in these homes, and these Somalians are making millions of dollars off of these homes every year. the Somalians have figured out exactly the perfect plan as to how to scam Minnesota taxpayers out of their money. They are banking on this, making millions of dollars, and the government here in Minnesota is too lazy to go and check it out and to see if there's even clients living in these homes. The fraud in Minnesota is so deep. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
You know, she gave some good information, but I disagree with her. It's not that they're too lazy at the state level. They're a part of it. They don't want to expose their own criminal activity. They know what's going on. They're a part of it. Now, the next governor of Minnesota, Mike Lindell, the inventor of the MyPillow, and remember, go to MyPillow.com. There's huge sales for New Year's going on right now with my promo code Kane at checkout. Mike Lindell went on the War Room with Bannon and was giving a little more detail. Remember, he's running for governor of Minnesota. MyPillow is based in Minnesota, giving us some more detail on this Somali Democrat fraud operation.
They have infiltrated every single one of these government Medicare or welfare services, and now they even have one where they're giving cars. It's non-medical emergency welfare, where you bring older people to the dentist, say, and they're getting all these cars. There's nobody in them, just like there's no kids in these daycare. And it's coming out today. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maine. This is opening, I think, states' eyes all around the country. But the New York Post came out the other day, everybody, on December 21st. $9 billion in Minnesota. That's half of the federal money given to Minnesota over the last, I think, it's 6 years.
Okay, so you hear that, Mike Lindell? The Somalis, with their fraud, are getting half of the federal funds going to Minnesota, and they've been doing this for 5-6 years.
Minnesota, that's half of the federal money given to Minnesota over the last, I think, it's 6 years. And it's more or real close to the whole economy of Somalia. All this money being sent out. They're buying housing around Minneapolis. They're buying these houses. Nobody in them. They're getting paid for that with these high-priced cars out there. Steve, it's absolutely disgusting. And then we have our governor that is just, he's going, we got to get rid of the guns. We got to get rid of the guns. He's totally deflecting. The Minnesota media, everybody, this is what's really disgusting. The media in Minnesota is basically like a big cover-up.
That's exactly right. They're covering all of it up. And this is not going anywhere. You know, 100 million plus people have seen Nick Shirley's reporting. So even though the mainstream media are not covering the story, it's getting covered by more people that would see it than if the mainstream media. I don't care that the mainstream media are not covering it. A lot of people making a big deal about that. Would that? Did you expect them to? Fox and Newsmax have, of course. Excuse me, guys. Even though I'm feeling better, I guess I'm still a little under the weather. And Kristi Noem has her guys out on the street. Now, when I first saw this video, I saw it on X, I'm like, no way. This fast? Government doesn't work this fast. And then I saw that Kristi Noem herself posted this video on her X. So they're hitting the streets. This is in Minnesota, tracking down, following up on Nick Shirley's reporting with Homeland Security officers.
No. We just provided the ransom. This is the location. This is where everybody comes.
Are there any subcontractors or anything you guys deal with? Like say like other businesses that you partner with that you use for a service of any kind, maybe transportation or anything like that? No.
We provide usually parents, and they come like this, drop the kids, they go to work, and then we take care of them.
Awesome. And who actually oversees the receipt of those documents?
Usually like no.
Yeah. So I mean, they're asking the questions and everything, but like I said, you're not going to get anywhere with these Somalis. They're gonna not talk. They're not going to talk. They're all profiting from it, and it's just the way it is. And there's nothing you're going to do that's going to get them to talk. But they got a lot of documents. They'll get them. And Nick Shirley, he went over on Fox over the weekend.
Nick, your video's been viewed 93 million times. What do you think will be the...
Now, keep in mind, 93 million times. That was of yesterday, and that's over a holiday weekend, Christmas weekend, when people aren't even following the news. And it's over 100 million now, well over.
Nick, your video's been viewed 93 million times. What do you think will be the result of this? Do you think that things will change because of bringing attention to this, or do you think it'll be much the same, swept under the rug and keep moving forward?
Yeah, there better be change. People are demanding it. The investigations have been launched just from that video alone. And so there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, the people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable. And so if there's not something that's happened, people are going to be very frustrated. And so if President Trump's watching this, it's time to really get down to nitty gritty and to make a difference in this place of Minnesota that is pretty much like Somaliland right now.
Yeah, and we need some arrest. Okay, so over 100 million have viewed the Nick Shirley YouTube video on some platform somewhere already over a holiday weekend. Think about that now. They used to talk about the Friday news drops. Remember they used to say, oh, the Friday news drop, that's where news goes to die. He dropped this on Friday. Over 100 million have seen it. And I looked up just now, the last episode of MASH in 1983 was the most watched television episode in history. It was a big deal. Do any of you remember when MASH went off the air? I'm old enough to remember myself. When MASH went off the air, everyone watched it. There were parties coast to coast, the MASH bashes. About 105 million. Now, there'll be some different numbers that people get, but about 105 million watched the last episode of MASH, the most watched television show in history. Think about that, 105. More than that have seen Nick Shirley's reporting. Think about that. And those of you that are old enough to remember, I was a kid, I was 12, but I remember it. It was a big freaking deal. More people have watched Nick Shirley's report from Friday already than watched the last episode of MASH. Think about that. Who would have thought something like that was even possible? Now, one of the things, before I want to share this, because this is part of what Tim Walz is dealing with. By the way, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be live streaming all week. I know it's New Year's week, but I'll be podcasting, I'll be on the radio, and I'll be live streaming all week. This is Melissa Hortman, who was the Democrat who was murdered, assassinated by that weirdo Democrat in Minnesota wearing the mask. Remember this? And she was in the news. I'm going to play you this clip of her where she was briefly interviewed on the local news in Minnesota. She was the only Democrat to cross the aisle to cut off Medicaid funding to illegals in Minnesota. Remember this? And then she got assassinated by that weirdo Democrat in the mask. And I know I am not the only one that's asking this question. When we see the Medicaid fraud that's going on in Minnesota, do you think her assassination was because of that? Do you think it was just some random lunatic? Or do you think she was assassinated because that she voted to cut off the Medicaid funding for illegals, which is basically how the whole state is being run? Here's an interview right after that vote.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
Yeah. And, it wasn't that long ago, just a couple months ago, I was getting calls every day and from liberals, and liberals all over the country in the news media and everything else were talking about Hortman, trying to blame Trump for it. And now we've got this. We didn't know about this Medicaid fraud at the time. Now we do. And here's the Democrat assassin. I believe that there's got to be a connection. There's too much money on the line. Got to be a connection. Sorry it happened to her. I wish she was here so we could talk to her about it and the pressure she received. But yeah. Oh. And I know a lot of people are asking this question. And you know what? This story is not going away. When we get into January and the New Year's holiday is over, this is really going to be heating up. Everything that's happened has happened over Christmas weekend, the day after Christmas. And I'm going to be covering this and everything. And I want to tell you guys, if you are new, make sure you subscribe to my program. Those of you that are already subscribed, if you guys could do me a couple of favors. One, please like the videos, okay? If you've enjoyed it and you like my content and what I do, please like the videos. But if you could join my marketing team, which is a pretty easy thing to do, all you have to do is take the link to my program, to my, like today's episode that I'm doing right now, this morning show or this episode, and share it on all your social media and invite all your friends and followers on your socials to check out this program because, this year is a big election. We can win this election. We can win the midterms with everything that's going on, all these great things that the president is doing, this corruption with the Democrats in Minnesota. We got it. If we have a good turnout, we got to swap them at the polls. If we swap them at the polls, we're going to win this thing. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we get back, there's a lot more to cover. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. We'll be back right after this.
Episode 2 of the Later Lovers podcast is out now. Singer, songwriter, and TV host Fabian Starr gives you an exclusive album update and behind-the-scenes access to his creative journey. The Later Lovers, new episode streaming everywhere. Do you want healthier chickens, stronger immunity, and rich golden yolked eggs without relying on chemicals? Of course you do, but how do you do it, and where do you even begin? That's easy with the new book from author Mary Butler, The Herbal Hen House, Nurturing Your Chickens with Nature's Remedies, available on Amazon. Author Mary Butler is a devoted chicken keeper and herbal enthusiast who brings more than a decade of hands-on experience straight to your coop. The Herbal Hen House is a warm, practical guide that shows you how to use safe, effective herbs to support digestion, boost immunity, and improve egg quality, as well as help prevent common flock problems naturally. When you read The Herbal Hen House, you'll discover easy, beginner-friendly herbal remedies, simple DIY blends that you can make at home, as well as clear guidance on what's safe, what to avoid, and how to care for chickens at every stage of life, from chicks to senior hens. Whether you're raising your very first flock or have been tending chickens for years, The Herbal Hen House gives you the confidence to ditch those harsh chemicals and raise healthier, happier chickens the natural way. The Herbal Hen House, Nurturing Your Chickens with Natural Remedies, from author Mary Butler, is available right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. Order your copy right now. Your chickens will thank you. Peptide research is exploding, and GLP-1 is leading the charge. Across the country, researchers are exploring metabolic, regenerative, and cellular repair models like never before. At MyPurePeptide.com, based in Dallas, Texas, they supply high-purity, lab-verified peptides for controlled research environments. Whether your work involves GLP-1 metabolic studies tied to weight and energy balance, cellular health and modulation models, or tissue repair pathways, MyPurePeptide.com is committed to supporting your research with clarity and consistency. Visit MyPurePeptide.com and use code DALLAS to save 25% on your order for research use only. MyPurePeptide.com.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Gormy from North Carolina.
Hey, North Carolina. What's on your mind?
Couple things. Now, I wondered why Kamala picked Campaign Tim to be her running mate, and now they want to turn everything like the Somalians. What he was doing there.
Yeah.
They want to turn that. That's what they want to happen in the world. But I got a question for you. There was a lady that used to be a Democrat, but she's changed and left them, and now it was in there with Biden and them all, and it was since the beginning. She's kind of foreign lady. You know what her name
You
is?
talking about that Muslim lady in the burqa where you can't see her face?
No, this is kind of a foreign girl, like a Chinese girl that was with Biden and them for the whole time inside, and
No.
she left them. I seen her on the program, I can't remember who she was.
Wait, Biden had a girlfriend?
No, he had a girl that worked in there. She was a woman that worked in his organization, and she was in there inside. And she's been on a couple of programs. I can't remember who
Someone
she
in
was.
the live chat gave me a name, Lindy Lou, but I don't know who that is. No, I don't know about what.
Yeah,
Lindy Lou.
Yeah, Lynn. Spell it for me, please.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know how to spell all these CCP names, but I
Okay,
guess I'm
okay.
sure LINDYLU is what I would guess.
Okay. All right. I'm going to look her up.
I'm not the person you want to go to get spelling advice. Okay, I'll give you my
Yeah.
wife's number. She's much better at the spelling than me.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, take care. I'll look into that. Or is it L-I? Lou, L-I? I'm not sure. I'm getting Lou, Lee, Lai. I don't know. I'll look into it. Sounds interesting. But I'm not really too interested in talking about Biden these days. Are you guys interested in Biden now? Tim Walz, he's in big trouble. Here he is on Meet the Press.
Speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from
9.
government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a
Crazy.
chance to respond to this.
More than their prison
Do
system.
you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well,
he's the head of the whole operation.
Certainly, I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just
my
talk
goodness.
theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated.
A well-run state with $9 billion in Somali fraud? Are you kidding me?
But that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing
Really?
everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy. And as you heard Senator Kelly say, this president has cut a lot of inspector generals. He's cut programs that could help us tackle this on. So we'll take it on. We'll put folks in jail. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your religion is, your color.
Really, he said that black students got to have black teachers. He seems to care. And yesterday, he was talking about Nick Shirley's a white supremacist. He's all about skin color and race and all of that.
If you're committing crimes, these are programs that were meant to serve students with autism, to housing, and to making sure people had enough to eat. There's a reason Minnesota ranks as the top, lowest childhood poverty, best place for children to live. People are taking advantage of that. They're going to prison. That is totally disconnected with demonizing an entire group of people who came here fleeing civil war and created a vibrant community that makes Minnesota and this country better. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. My God, there's a big difference between fraud and corruption.
Really? There's a difference between fraud and corruption. What's the difference, Tim? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Massachusetts.
Hey, Sean, what's up?
Well, Nick Shirley, he's done some incredible work. I mean, overall, I've been watching this guy for a long time. And, the first time I heard about the mega prison in El Salvador was actually his video a long time ago, before most people, this is before Trump got back into office and Bukele started, we started knowing about what he was doing. And he really did a great job
he
showing
did.
what they do and stuff.
His video down there was incredible, yeah.
Oh, then Lane did that. That was an early video, too. And
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. And he's doing some incredible work here. I can't believe the number of people that have seen this new one. And this is great that people are seeing it. Because
I mean, I want you guys,
it takes
people
time.
that weren't, you don't sound old enough to remember. More people have seen Nick Shirley's video than the last episode of MASH. That is a lot of people, man. I mean, that's a lot of people. A third of the country have seen it. A third of the country.
Yeah, it's so impressive, and there's a reason for it. I mean, that woman that did the real estate aspect that you showed, I think that's his mom, because his mother goes around with him sometimes and does videos with him.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I've heard that Richie the bus driver was telling me that he goes around with his mom.
Yeah, and I think that was her that was doing that part. I mean, she
Maybe.
did say some interesting things.
She did. All right, hey, I appreciate the call. I agree with everything you said. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Angela calling from California.
Hey, Angela.
Hello. I wanted to say sorry for the state of Minnesota, right?
Mhm.
That's been under the Somalian fraudulent that's going on.
Yes.
If I were to live there, I get all the American people, if there's any, to hit the street and say, I'm not paying taxes at all.
Oh, then you'll go to
Because
prison.
why?
Then you'll go to prison.
Well, I know, but this is America. We got to.
No, you can't. You can't. No, you can't refuse to pay. You got to pay taxes. You'll go to. You can't commit
Really?
you can't commit a federal crime in protest of another federal crime unless you want to go to prison. No, do not do that. Unless you want to go to prison.
What can we do to help?
Well, we have President Trump.
Oh, that's true. He's doing an awesome job. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And FBI finally got in, and now they're investigating everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
I just wanted to, give him a heads up and say, hit the streets and, move this quicker and get them all out.
That's right. That's true. All right. Hey, I appreciate the call. If you're on hold, hang in there. So here's MSNBC. I know it's MS Now. Now they call it MS Now, whatever. I don't quite get that. Listen to this. They talk about the Minnesota fraud.
Sure. So these were funds that were meant to go to help feed hungry people during the.
Notice it's like Tim Walz. This is the talking point. These are funds for people that are hungry and for autism.
So these were funds that were meant to go to help feed hungry people during the COVID pandemic, to help keep people in their homes who were at risk of homelessness. So first of all, if there is fraud there, that should be fully investigated, no matter where it is, whether it's in a Democratic-led state, a Republican-led state. I mean, let's pull back. So absolutely, it should be investigated. The question is, why is this a priority in a different kind of way? The politicization of the DOJ and the FBI is undeniable. So whether they are reliable narrators is the big question. And this is what happens when you weaponize and politicize federal agencies that are not meant to be, politicized. And
Please, Kash Patel is all he worries about is his girlfriend in sports betting. Kash Patel. It's the Auto Pit administration that weaponized those agencies.
I think the American people are right to ask the question, well, can we trust you? And that's a sad thing to say as an American. Let's recall, too, that there's also other scandals in other states. For example, the Mississippi welfare scandal. I mean, this is not unique to politics.
No, but it's unique to Democrats, okay? Wherever Democrats are running something, there is financial scandal going on. California, Minnesota, Ohio, wherever Democrats are running the show, there are financial scandals going on. Now, if you're new, guys, make sure that you subscribe, all right? This is most definitely, without question, where MAGA comes to talk. And if you'd like to support my channel, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description on whatever platform you're listening on, or you can go to patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. And if you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all my podcasts, as well as access to exclusive live streams on the Patreon platform, open only to Patreon supporters. No trolls allowed. It's a troll-free zone. And if you're a top Patreon supporter, you get your name up on the screen on YouTube, and you get a live on-air thank you shout-out. So the names you will hear now are my top Patreon supporters. And I'm going to read them in reverse order today because I have them there. I'm going to read them in reverse order today. I want to thank Doris, Irene, Teresa, Janice, Sue, Wes, Rob, Laura, David, Tina, Dale, Frank, John, Brandon, George, Shauna, Lizep, Alice, Maria in Texas, David, Heather, Doris, Wesley, Nick, Pamela, Chuck, ETW, Christine, and SF Jr. These are my top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And again, there's a link to my Patreon page where you can become a Patreon supporter in the description of this episode on whatever platform you are listening to me on. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, all right? My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.